Good evening and welcome to the December 17th, 2025 meeting of the Lower Makefield Township Board of Supervisors. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll do a roll call. Supervisor Lewis.
Here.
Supervisor Ross.
Here.
Supervisor McCartney.
Present.
Supervisor Blundy.
For the last time.
Or so you think. And I am Supervisor Grenier, so everyone is here. All right, a few community announcements. Reminder, during this portion of the agenda, residents and youth organizations may call in to make a special announcement or contact the township at admin@lmt.org to request a special announcement be added to the agenda. Let's see, reminder that the 2025-26 deer hunting season is ongoing. All areas being hunted are properly posted. If you have any questions or concerns, you can reach out to the township at admin@lmt.org. The Yardley Farmers Market will be at the Community Center, 1550 Oxford Valley Road, the first and third Saturdays of every month until April 26th of 2026 from 9 a.m. to noon. The Lower Makefield Township Police Department invites you to apply for our Citizens Police Academy, a free interactive program for LMT residents ages 18 and older that gives more information. For more information on how to apply, visit our link. It's our LMT Facebook page for Police Department. The Lower Makefield Township Environmental Advisory Council is hosting their first styrofoam collection event for 2026 on January 10th from 10 a.m. to noon in the Township Building parking lot right here. For more information, go to the Township calendar at our website at lmt.org. Announcements tonight. The Township will be hosting an American Red Cross blood drive on Friday, January 30th, 2026 from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Right here in the main meeting room at 1100 Edgewood Road. To sign up or get more information, log on to redcrossblood, all one word, .org, and enter sponsor code Lower Makefield, all one word, but a capital L and a capital M. The Kiwanis Club, Washington Crossing Yardley, invites the public to an exciting evening of bag bingo on February 13th, 2026 at St. Ignatius Church in Yardley. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. and bingo starts at 7:30 p.m. The event will feature 12 thrilling rounds of bingo where players have the opportunity to win luxury designer handbags. There you go. I'm just checking. All proceeds from the event will go towards helping underserved families and children in our community.
Valentine's Day. So if you haven't made plans for Valentine's Day, what better way to share that with your, spouse than?
You're giving me ideas. Additional information and registration details can be found on the Kiwanis Club Washington Crossing Yardley website. Washington Crossing Yardley Kiwanis, that's all one word, .org. Any other community announcements from any board members? Anyone from the public have community announcements on any events? All right. Hearing none, I will open it up to public comment on non-agenda items. So this is public comment for folks that have something to say, something that's not on the agenda tonight. If you have comments on anything that's on the agenda, then we'll take public comment on those items after we go through that one. Please, if you have any public comment, please state your name, whether or not you're Lower Makefield Township resident, and try and keep your comment to 3 minutes. So, floor is open if you're up for it.
Good evening. My name is Tom Tracy. I live at 202 South Esther Lane, and I am a township resident. I'm asking about Project 1101. That is immediately behind my house. The status of that, I'm thinking that it's going to be completed sometime in 2026. And I was wondering if there was any news or update as far as from an arborist point of view, is the trees and the number of them, because there's been an enormous, beyond the norm that was expected, of number of trees that have been taken down. And I'm just interested if there's any news that you can share on that.
Are you familiar, Dave?
Excuse me. I don't. I'm not specifically aware at this point, but I can be sure to have somebody follow up with you to provide an update on sort of
I
status
appreciate that.
and so forth.
About 6 months ago, after I noticed that a number of
Okay.
the trees had come down, I did come and ask and inquire about it. They said that it was too early, obviously, but I was
Okay.
thinking 2026 is around the corner, so
Okay.
obviously it's going to be finished, and, obviously they're going to be looking to get out of there. So
Sure.
I just wondered what the update would be, okay?
Okay, sounds good. We'll make sure to reach back out to you, sir.
Do you have his contact information? Just
I assume you were you corresponding with Jim Majewski? Is that who you were corresponding with, or?
Yes, sir, that's
Oh, okay, all right. So, Jim has his
All right.
contact information. Yep.
Excellent. Just want to make sure we have a means to get back in touch with you, that's all. Any other public comment? All right, anyone online or on the phone? No, okay. Moving on to item number 6, which is the recognition of Supervisors Suzanne S. Blundy and James McCartney. As Supervisor Blundy alluded to during our roll call, this is their last official meeting, I believe, as Township Supervisors after many years of service. So, they've both put in at least 6 years on the board, and in some cases more, plus many more years of service to the township and on other boards and committees. So we thought at the minimum we could recognize their time with the township. We have a couple of things here. The Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors offers recognition for those that have served as supervisors over time, as Lower Makefield Township is a member. So they've given us certificates to recognize your service that you can hang up on your wall. And then we've also, as a township, because these are nicer than the certificates, I'm not going to lie, we've done proclamations for both, which I'll read today. This is a proclamation of the Board of Supervisors of Lower Makefield Township, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, honoring Suzanne S. Blundy. Whereas the strength and vitality of Lower Makefield Township are defined by the dedication and service to those who serve its residents, and whereas the future well-being of the community depends upon the determination, responsibility, and leadership of its elected officials, and whereas Suzanne S. Blundy served with distinction as a member of the Board of Supervisors of Lower Makefield Township from January 2018 through December 2025, and whereas during her tenure, Suzanne S. Blundy demonstrated commitment, professionalism, and genuine concern for the welfare of the township and its residents. Now therefore be it proclaimed that we, the Board of Supervisors of Lower Makefield Township, do hereby express our sincere appreciation to Suzanne S. Blundy for exemplary service and dedicated leadership, and be it further proclaimed that the official records of Lower Makefield Township shall reflect that Suzanne S. Blundy served as a devoted and loyal member of the Board of Supervisors, bringing honor to herself and to the township through her years of public service. We extend to her our warmest wishes for happiness, success, and fulfillment in all future endeavors, adopted the 17th day of December 2025.
I hope mine's unique.
Totally.
Totally.
We're going to proclaim next week.
Right.
James McCartney.
That's right.
All right. And also for Mr. McCartney, we have the similar PSATS certificate for your wall and another proclamation for you, which I'll read. I'm sure it'll be very different. A proclamation of the Township of the Board of Supervisors of Lower Makefield Township, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, honoring James McCartney. Whereas the strength and vitality of Lower Makefield Township are defined not by its geographic boundaries, but by the dedication and service of the individuals who commit themselves to the community. And whereas the future well-being of the township depends upon the determination, responsibility, and discipline of its public servants. And whereas James McCartney began his service to Lower Makefield Township as an alternate member of the Zoning Hearing Board in March 2011 and was appointed a full member in June 2015. And whereas following his service on the Zoning Hearing Board, James McCartney was elected to the Board of Supervisors in January 2020. and serve the township with distinction through January 2026. You get a few more days than her, apparently. And now, therefore...
Yeah, that's the item that I was
I
looking
thought
at.
so.
So
Now that
we'll get that corrected, yes.
Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors of Lower Makefield Township hereby expresses its sincere gratitude to James McCartney for his exemplary service, leadership, and dedication to the residents of the township. And be it further proclaimed that this board recognizes James McCartney as a devoted and loyal public servant whose contributions brought honor to himself and to Lower Makefield Township, and extends its best wishes for happiness and continued success in all his future endeavors, adopted this 17th day of December 2025. No, we can get back to arguing again, that's fine. So next item on the agenda, we have a presentation from Strategic Solutions regarding the Pennsylvania DCED Strategic Management Planning Program. It's our final report. Is anyone from STAMP here?
Kyle should be on the line.
Okay.
There.
So before they get rolling, I probably some new faces in the room that haven't seen the previous presentations from this group. But over the course of the last year and change, I guess, the board has undertaken lots of planning studies to address long-term budgets. We've looked at various ways to look for efficiencies in the township structure in terms of how we do projects and other various things. And this is they've given, what, 2 other presentations prior to this?
2 other presentations.
So this is the final presentation in that series this evening. So with that, Mr. You have anything else to add?
I don't. I think you did that well.
Okay,
so with us, I'll just, for introduction purposes, just reintroduce John Trant, who's president of Strategic Solutions, and then Kyle DeShong, who's been the principal planner and project manager on the project. So with that, I guess, I don't know if, John, you have any remarks before Kyle gets into things or not, but you're welcome.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll just kick it off. We appreciate the opportunity to present this final step and want to start, and Kyle will reinforce this at the end of our presentation by emphasizing this is the last step in this phase, but this is not the end of the program. Certainly, we encourage the township to continue to be actively engaged in implementing this strategic plan and working with DCED and other funding sources to implement the various recommendations of the plan. So while this is our last time with you as relates to this project, we certainly hope that the life of this project continues onward into future phases. Kyle?
Yeah. Thanks, John. Thanks, Mr. Kratzer, board, kind of all staff at Lower Makefield and the public for the opportunity to present, like has been mentioned a few times, the third and final presentation as part of this process. Before I get going too much more, just want to make sure everybody can see my screen. We're good to go.
Yes, we're good, Kyle.
Okay, cool. So like I said, for anybody that's kind of unfamiliar, we're presenting the strategic management and planning program process that Lower Makefield has been working on throughout 2025. This is a program that is facilitated by the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. And really the goal, or the primary goals through this process, are to identify some strategies to strengthen the financial position of the township, as well as to identify some operational efficiencies or just opportunities to continue to enhance service delivery. So tonight, we're really going to be focused on how to implement the findings that we have presented in the first 2 iterations of this process. So with that said, I'm going to flip to the agenda. Real quick here, I will again just touch on who we are, the project team, as well as kind of revisit what the strategic management and planning program, or you'll hear me say STAMP, approach looks like overall. Then I'll summarize some of the findings from our prior 2 presentations with kind of top 3 financial management priorities and the critical township objectives. And then really our focus for tonight, again, being implementation. So those will be the next portion of the agenda. And then we'll wrap up with kind of a little bit about the subsequent phases of this process and where we go from here. So quickly on the project team, We have had a broad group with really a diverse set of experiences and background in local government that have been working on this. So everyone from people that have direct experience managing municipalities to people with specialized skills on the IT and public safety sort of spectrum, as well as CPAs that help with the financial analysis. So everybody really worked together to put together the report that is the output of this process. And so revisiting kind of and diving back into what the stamp process looks like overall. Steps 1 and 2 are the financial portion of this. So starting with a financial condition assessment and a financial trend analysis. That's what we covered in the first presentation when we joined the Board of Supervisors meeting. Step 3 is only needed in case of an emergency, so it's not something that was relevant to Lower Makefield. Step 4 is the management audit, which is, again, that detailed review of all of the core services and departments at Lower Makefield and identifying opportunities to enhance service delivery. That's what we presented last time. And then tonight, we will focus on steps 5 and 6, which are how to implement the various recommendations and strategies contained in the report, and then how that's all packaged together in a plan. So step 5 will really talk about some of those things like who's responsible for the recommendation, what are the potential personnel and funding needs, as well as some additional detail. And then step 6 is the plan that can be used on an ongoing basis by the township. So revisiting some of our key findings from the last 2 meetings. So really at a fundamental level, phase 1 of the stamp process is focused on strengthening the long-term financial position of participating municipalities. So a big part of that is identifying what those top 3 financial management priorities are. So one of them that has been kind of a key talking point throughout this process is just revenue diversification. Lower Makefield's status as a second-class township means that they're kind of up against the statutory millage cap in terms of what can be assessed from a property tax perspective, and that's really created by the lack of a county-wide property reassessment in recent decades that together make for some pressures on the general fund over the long term. So ongoing efforts to diversify and grow revenue. Some of the things that are discussed in the report include exploring transitioning to a first-class township or exploring an earned income tax, but there's kind of a host of solutions discussed in the report to help with that effort to address those pressures. Also identified early the recommendation to develop and implement a capital improvements plan, really to prioritize major infrastructure investments, ensure that there's kind of alignment on funding for those things. Seeing as this is a process we've been working on throughout the year, my understanding is that this is really already something that the township has accomplished at this point, or at the very least, there's been substantial progress on, but wanted to note it as a core recommendation. And then the third one on here is to control personnel costs, and I think this one's worth just a little bit more explanation, because personnel expenses this is really here because it's the largest expense as part of the township's operating budget, which is something that is pretty expected or standard for local governments, but kind of considered in conjunction with the first recommendation around revenue diversification, some of those pressures on revenue. I think it's important that seeing how much of the budget that makes up, that there are strategies put in place to ensure that doesn't make up a larger part of the budget in the future. So there's some specific things to consider noted in the report for future collective bargaining negotiations and things like that, as well as constantly revisiting staffing structures to ensure that the township's expectation for service delivery is kind of met on an ongoing basis. Some critical township objectives. These are the things that we really talked about in our last presentation. So one is kind of a conversation about modernizing township facilities. Many of the facilities in Lower Makefield have been around since the 70s and have served the community really well. But with that, there is some opportunity to enhance things like access control measures just to improve safety and flow around the township buildings. And there's also some space constraints at this point. So really assessing what the township's future facility needs are and identifying a plan to optimize those spaces for the community and for staff was kind of a core set of recommendations that are contained in the report. Similarly, there's several recommendations around technology modernization and system integration. So really just on an ongoing basis, evaluating the tools that the township uses across departments and identifying opportunities to where some of those services or programs can be pulled under one technology solution. And really the key thing there is that makes the flow of information from one group to another a lot easier to facilitate. So several recommendations on that front. Similarly, some strategic HR enhancements were noted. We did an employee survey as part of this process, and some of the things that staff shared were just some selective opportunities around things like training or opportunities to provide feedback. And so exploring the opportunity to build kind of a more structured HR function, or even consider hiring an HR professional to kind of manage some of those strategic HR initiatives. One could free up some capacity for management, but also make some progress on that front. And then lastly, we had a lot in there around capital and asset management approaches. So one example being for Public Works, establishing kind of a digital GIS-based asset management system to inventory the assets that the community has, everything from stormwater to street lights, street signs, and make sure that there's kind of a centralized location to track condition, maintenance, things like that will support with capital planning. So these are just some of the core things. Obviously, the report contains even more than this, but wanted to call these out as some of the critical items from our last presentation. So getting to implementation, like I said, which is really the new information for tonight. What is actually shown on this slide is a screenshot taken directly from the report of what each one of the recommendations that we have developed, looks like. And so for each recommendation, there's a detailed description of the actions that need to be taken to implement that recommendation. There's a note about the anticipated outcome or what could be achieved if that implementation is, or if that recommendation is implemented. And then there's some details about how to implement. So one is kind of a priority or an implementation timeline recommendation, being immediate, short term, so within 1 year, medium term, which is 2 to 3 years, or long term, which is 4 to 5 years. A responsible party is suggested. Usually there's more than one, but in some cases there's a primary. And then an estimate for the personnel needed to accomplish that recommendation and the funding that would be needed to accomplish that recommendation. So for personnel, it can be either major, moderate, or minor, where major would involve either significant staffing changes or leadership structure change, or long-term, maybe year-plus support from external consultants. On the flip side of that would be a minor need, which is essentially current staff can handle this in addition to or alongside their current roles. And then moderate kind of falls in between. So some seasonal support, part-time support, or potentially temporary contract support to help with implementation of that recommendation. This one's most common on some of the IT recommendations. And then on the funding side, again, the key is major, moderate, and minor. Where major is it's expected to cost over $100,000 and would likely require some external funding support. Moderate is between $12,900 and $100, and minor is less than $12,900. That $12,900 number came from the Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industries kind of standards around when you would need to, over $12,900, you would need to go and actually get bids from multiple external sources to implement that recommendation. So that's where those come from. So with that in mind, this is all packaged, like I said, into an implementation plan. So the intention is that all of these recommendations are evaluated, adjusted, and monitored on an ongoing basis. And so the screenshot there is what this implementation plan looks like in the actual report. I think it's probably easiest if I just share what that actually looks like in the report. So you can see here, this is the last several pages of the report. There's a section that's titled Implementation Plan. And so some of the keys we just talked about are noted, but as I scroll down, you'll see the table of all these recommendations that we have come up with. So there's several columns here. One, obviously listing the strategy and then revisiting the personnel and funding needs that we've identified, as well as the responsible party. The actual recommendations are organized first by sort of department or service area, and then by the implementation or the priority level or implementation timeline. So I'll scroll back up quickly and note that it's sort of color coded. If it's an immediate need, it's in red, within 1 year yellow, 3 years orange, or 5 years green, and it's sorted that way as well. So as I scroll down through here, you'll kind of see that it's phased accordingly. And in the funding column, I do want to point out that it also notes if per DCED feedback, that recommendation has the potential to be eligible for some level of funding through phase 2. And so the last thing I will point out on this front is that there's a column in here sort of to track just the status of each of these recommendations, because again, this is intended to be something that the township is monitoring on an ongoing basis and can kind of track how many of these recommendations have been implemented versus are maybe in progress or are a little bit lower on the priority list right now. So to wrap that back up, I'll just jump back into the presentation really quick and hit some next steps. So ultimately, the plan as it's constituted has to be adopted by motion of the board tonight or at a later meeting. But ultimately, adoption is what creates then eligibility to receive phase 2 funding through the STAMP program to implement some of the recommendations that we have discussed. And I think it's worth saying that the plan provides a roadmap, not a mandate to do anything in particular. So again, the intention is that the township is, understands best kind of how to going forward prioritize these things and work towards implementation so it can be adjusted and monitored on an annual basis. So with all that said, I think I'll reiterate just a thanks to everybody for their partnership throughout this process. And we think, through this process, there are some clear priorities and the township is well positioned to continue to build momentum going forward. So with that said, be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions?
Do you need a motion before questions, or?
Well, so this is just questions on their presentation,
Okay.
if you'd like. And then if we want to, we could make a motion to accept this. We don't have to make a motion to accept.
If we make a motion to accept it, though, we get money.
It opens us up to money. Yes, it does.
Yes.
So if-
I think the chair was just indicating, as Kyle, that you could do that this evening, or you could do it at a subsequent meeting, whatever your comfort is.
Yeah, and that I'll leave that up to the board. Are there any questions on the presentation we just had? With that, would anyone like to make a motion to accept the final report tonight?
I would.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the final report. Now, I will open up to the board for questions on the final report or comment. Yeah, I guess. Oh, you want to say something?
Yeah, I would just say, for anyone who's watched all 3 presentations, or for people who have an opportunity to look at it at home, it is no magic bullet, right? But it is thoughtful recommendations that the future boards will have to consider as how to deal with the shortfalls that we experience currently and that are going to continue to grow. So I thank the board, I thank our township staff, and of course, the strategic consultants who've worked on this to help us get to this place.
Thank you. Anyone else on the board? The only thing I'll add is, as building on what Supervisor Blendy just said, as we've gone through these presentations and these reports that they've given us now, third one tonight, there's definitely some themes that have developed that I think they gave us on one of their earlier slides related to revenue diversification, the capital improvement plans, and personnel costs. Some of those are directly tied to our budgets and whatnot. Some of those are more policy-driven, and some of those are administrative. So it's a good way to look holistically at township operations and budgeting. As tonight is our final budget meeting, I think it's good timing to make sure we have considered all those items, not only for this year, but for years to come, as these are things that we need to implement long-term. Planning has been a theme this year, and I think this plays right into that. With that, we have a motion and a second. Any other board comment before I open it up for public comment on these? Okay. If anyone has public comment on the presentation you just saw, please feel free to come up to the podium. Just like earlier public comment, please state your name. Whether or not you're a township resident, please try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. The podium's open if you like it. All right. Anyone online? No one online. So we have a motion and a second. I will call to question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Okay. Ayes have it, 4-1. Thank you to the stamp team for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda is a presentation from our township engineer, HRG, specific to a stormwater utility credit policy. They've previously presented on the structure of the stormwater utility fee and policy. This tonight is specific to credits for activities that may allow you to reduce a stormwater fee. There is another item on the agenda that is the larger stormwater utility fee, if anyone's here to comment on that, but this is specific to the credit policy. Anything, did I miss anything?
I don't have anything. I
All right.
turn it over to Tyler.
Is he all set up? What's that?
At this point, I think we all know this gives me a hard time.
He's coming to rescue you.
I think we're good.
There we go.
Whoa. False alarm.
We
Thank you.
put 2 guys back there tonight to be able to be able to service your needs, and that didn't need to be done, so that's good.
Okay. Oh. Okay. Well, thank you, guys, to have me here again. Great to see you all. Following up on our last presentation regarding the stormwater utility credits, we, at your direction, added a few. You'll see those here on the right-hand side, the downspout disconnection and native trees and shrubs. So those are going to be more of our non-structural BMPs. The defensibility column, those are what we would recommend. Again, Maureen may have a different definition on that defensibility. And then we also have, some public acceptance credits on the right-hand side. So my game plan is just to go down through each of those options, kind of talk through that. I have some examples here, and then I'd like to get your feedback on those credits and some guidance on what we should include in the credit policy moving forward.
Before you get into that, since we do have some people here tonight that may not have heard you speak in the past,
Sure, absolutely.
Would you just explain generally how how credits can work for something like
Sure. Yeah. So the stormwater utility program, I'll kind of go back to the beginning, is a fee implemented based on impervious area on a parcel. The credit policy then is designed to offset that fee. The amount of offset and reduction is directly correlated to the credit itself, as well as the impervious area being treated or the activity as part of that credit. So this would be a percent reduction associated with an activity done by a property owner to decrease that property owner's parcel's stormwater fee.
that? Recognizing that they've made an effort to address stormwater on their parcel.
Correct. Either directly addressing stormwater or indirectly through some other means. Okay. So the first credit option we have here is a low impact parcel credit. So this is a credit for a parcel that we would consider to be low impact. That is going to be a parcel with less than or equal to 3% total impervious. We also broke the credits down into eligible property types. So based on the assumed fee structure of 2 tiers, we have some credits that would be available only to Tier 1, some only available to Tier 2, but low impact would be available to both Tier 1 and Tier 2. We would recommend that a max credit of 5% be applied for these low impact parcel credits. And to calculate the percent impervious, you take the total impervious area divided by the parcel size. And if that number is less than or equal to 3, the credit would be automatically applied at the initiation of the fee for any subsequent adjustments to a property that would have to be applied for.
So Tyler, there may be some utility, again, there's folks in the audience, and not to rehash some of the prior discussions, but just maybe a brief sort of just have you explain how impervious surface area was collected.
Absolutely.
As part of this process, just as there's likely questions related to that.
Sure. So the impervious area was collected through aerial imagery where near map was utilized, and then AI was used to get a baseline for that impervious area mapping, and that was pulled into GIS, where then we did some adjustments to what the AI produced, cleaned up the lines for the impervious area, and based on that GIS mapping and county data sets for parcel boundaries, we were able to assign a square footage of impervious area for each parcel within the township.
Thank you.
Sure. So would it be preferred for me to go through all the credit options, or would you like to give me a recommendation at the end, or do we want to talk through the low impact parcel to start?
Let's just go through them.
Okay, perfect. So the next credit here is that peak rate and volume control. So this is going to be more of a structural BMP. This would be eligible for Tier 1 and Tier 2 properties. And this is going to be your typical stormwater control device, right? So rain gardens, detention basins, infiltration trenches or pits, anything of that nature that it's designed and engineered to control the rate and volume of stormwater. So this is going to be a max of 20% credit, 5% for that peak rate, and then 15% for that volume control. The application of this is going to be based on the amount of impervious area that is treated by the BMP. So I have an example here. So if a property has 10,000 square, and I used round numbers to make it easy. If a property has 10,000 square feet of impervious area, the property has 5,000 of that going to a BMP that is receiving that max 20% credit. 50% of their impervious area is being treated. So 20% would apply to 50% of the impervious area and be a 10% reduction overall.
All right, I lied about this one. I'm going to ask you a question
Sure.
on this one. When we talk about structural BMPs, I think we have to define what constitutes structural BMP and make sure that they meet the requirements of the Pennsylvania DEP. Right?
Yeah, so we would recommend just referencing back to the PADEP BMP manual for eligible BMPs. Now, there are some in there that don't necessarily treat volume and rate. So, if anybody is doing some light reading in the BMP manual, I would urge you to make sure that, any BMP that you're looking at is treating volume and rate.
Okay. So in terms of any policy or ordinance that we would pass on credits, we would have to make sure that that's clearly enumerated in there, right?
Yep. So in the draft credit manual, we do have reference to that BMP manual.
I actually read that manual a lot, so just want to make sure.
Okay. So the next credit here is a stormwater partnership.
I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't mean to back you up, but this was, I think you and I had a little bit of conversation about, facilities that were in, the sort of motivating factor for the installation of facilities. Do you want to speak on that at all in terms of, again, as we know, many people in this community have installed facilities as part of zoning hearing board proceedings.
Sure.
Some facilities have been installed as part of, land development processes. There's no, as I understand it, the credit policy does not distinguish between those circumstances. Is that correct?
Correct. So this would take into account BMPs installed as part of a requirement for, land development or zoning hearing. Or, a property owner that wanted to install a basin in their backyard for whatever reason. But it does account for any required stormwater facilities as well as any unrequired stormwater facilities. So, yeah.
For this one's typically more of a commercial application when you're putting in structural BMPs because they take up space and they require an engineer to design them. But you could do it on a residential property. It's just we also have to have a method for review and approval of the design if it's going to be a significant structural BMP, right?
So we do see, smaller scale structural BMPs on residential properties. It's typically when you're, if you surpass the, percent impervious allowed per zoning and you are offsetting that by a BMP, as well as, more recent developments will require that. But they are different in nature. Typically, they still are designed by an engineer, and there's an analysis that we could utilize to review that. But the larger scale are going to be more commercial oriented. Okay, so the next credit here is going to be the Stormwater Partnership Credit. And this is going to be eligible for, Tier 1 or Tier 2 properties. This is kind of our, we aren't assuming that we have accounted for every credit that we should. If there's a credit that, you as a property owner believe you should be receiving a credit for, let's have a conversation about it. If there is a value that we can tie to the program and a reduction of cost, we can discuss, a credit moving forward. This is also a good opportunity to, account for any potential future regulatory requirements where new basins or stream restorations or things of that nature would need to be installed. We can, offer a reduction to the stormwater fee as part of, easements or, purchase of land, whatever it might be.
Do you, and again, I don't mean to, do you want to talk a little bit about sort of the fixed cost versus variable cost and how that plays into credits?
Yeah, so with the percentages of the credits, we did an analysis on the budget of fixed costs and variable costs associated with, the stormwater program, where fixed costs are going to be your typical operation and maintenance versus the variable costs, which are more regulatory driven. So that's the simplest breakdown. It is a little bit more complex than that, but based on the variable costs of the budget, we are able to offer these credits and offset, the variable costs with the assumption that these credits would directly reduce that portion of the budget that the township would be required to implement, potential BMPs or regulatory requirements such as public outreach and education, things of that nature. So into our next credit, public participation. So this is, we're anticipating this being eligible only for Tier 1 properties, but this would be a max credit of 10%, where a credit hour, so essentially a volunteer hour, would be worth 5% per billing cycle. We would anticipate that this would be valid 1 year from the day of attendance of that volunteer event, and you would have to provide proof of attendance. So, clean stream cleanups, roadside cleanups, things of that nature, tree plantings, attending an education class, and this would have to be pre-approved by the township. Any questions on that one? Okay. The next one is a rain barrel rebate. So this would be eligible for Tier 1 and Tier 2 properties. We would see this as a one-time rebate of $100. So if you install multiple rain barrels, it would still be $100. If you install one rain barrel, it would be $100. You would have to submit proof of installation to receive that rebate. And you don't have to put a rain barrel in all of your downspouts as long as there is a single rain barrel on your property. An education credit. So this is a little bit different in the eligibility. We would recommend that this is only available to private and public school account holders. And this would be geared towards the MS4 requirements for education. And we would need proof of what those educational materials would be. The curriculum would then have to be approved by the township from a standpoint of this meets the requirements that we need to include in our MS4 annual reports. That credit would be valid for 1 year. However, it would be renewable, and the curriculum wouldn't necessarily have to change, but if there is an update to that curriculum, we would need to be notified. So have some examples there, science fairs, student posters, the water cycle. There's ample opportunity in the education system to, teach about stormwater. Okay, so this is a new one since the last time we talked. This is downspout disconnection. So this would be disconnecting all downspouts from your property and directing them to pervious areas, pervious vegetated areas. The eligibility would be only for Tier 1 properties and have a max credit of 5%. And the caveat here would be that the downspouts would have to be directed to at minimum 20-foot space before the next impervious area that's down gradient. So you can't, disconnect your downspouts, put it to a foot of grass, and then, there's a driveway right after that. And then the second new credit is the native tree and shrub. So this is, again, eligibility for Tier 1 properties. And we base the max credit of 10% in kind of a tiered structure, where native trees, if you plant 5, you'd be eligible for a 5% credit, 10 would be a 7.5% credit, and then 15 would be a 10% credit. This would be based on new trees and shrubs from the approved plantings list that the township has, and the expectation is that those trees would be maintained for a period of time. We have talked about what that period of time was, but the expectation of the credit is based on the full growth of that tree. So we would want to recommend that there is a time frame associated with that.
And the heading says tree and shrub. The table said trees.
Correct.
What are you
Yeah.
looking at here?
So based on the trees and shrubs list that the township has, we wanted to potentially offer a shrub alternative to the trees. Not all properties can house 15 trees, so we wanted to be open with that, but wanted to discuss that with you guys on the transition from those shrubs to the trees. Typically, I would say we would see 5 shrubs equals 1 tree.
Right. Okay.
So that's the list of our credits. So real quick here, the next steps would be finalizing this, continuing public outreach, and then the billing implementation. But at this point, I would love thoughts on the credit options and what we should be including.
Sure. Well, thank you for the presentation. I think these, from a high level, these are all reasonable credits, and the township, from a township perspective, the goal of the program is to address stormwater management, both quality and quantity, and these credits, it's not just to save a buck, it's to actually address those issues. They have a fundamental impact on that, so I appreciate that. Going through each, couple questions on a few of them.
Sure.
The low-impact parcel one, for example, you can have, if not, I don't know that we have too many, 100-acre parcels, but you could have a significantly sized impervious area on some of these larger parcels and still get credit for that as low impact. I think we may want to review that to see, depending on the type of parcel, if that makes sense. Because you may have for example, if it was mowed like a golf course for that many acres, and then you're not getting much bang for your buck when it comes to stormwater management when it's going over something that effectively acts as impervious area itself, but looks green.
Yeah, I think, land use is always going to be a factor, right?
Yeah.
Golf course is easy to pick on with the fertilizers and things that are associated with that. But the low-impact parcel credit is geared towards, in some ways it is geared towards the larger parcels, but there are some smaller parcels that, might only have a little bit of impervious, but it is enough to put them into a billing threshold. But the amount of pervious associated with the impervious on their parcel is minimal. So we're kind of putting that into the same category as a downspout disconnection. So the this being eligible for Tier 1 and Tier 2 properties would be kind of the same credit opportunity as the downspout disconnection.
And then, let's see. We already talked about the structural BMPs and making sure that they're, I think these ones are, obvious to some extent, but also somewhat difficult to another extent because, commercial properties, they're going to have an engineer that designs them, does the math,
Right.
signs and seals them. Probably needs a permit from DEP and/or us, so we're going to be able to vet it and make sure that it works. They're going to have some sort of deed restriction on it, and they're going to have an O&M plan. So that's built in. That makes sense, right? When it comes to the kind that we might see at the zoning hearing board, where these might not be structural BMPs that are necessarily in the DEP manual, it's often their pool guy who designs the pool is designing these things based off some back of the napkin numbers, and they put it in their backyard, and it's tough to verify that someone's going to keep a rain garden or a seepage pit or something like that, and it's going to have that effect. So I think it's tough to compare apples to apples on those ones. So we may need to kind of take a step back and see how we can guarantee that for that large of a credit in that circumstance.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had some discussion about, and again, I don't want to go too far back, but this is all being informed, obviously, by regulatory obligations that are being imposed upon the township, a regulatory framework that's being established through federal and state law that's ultimately being pushed down to us from a meeting an obligation standpoint. There's, part of the discussion I think we had on this is there are, in establishing what our reduction requirements are, there are certain activities that have occurred in this township that have not been captured from a credit perspective, and I'm talking from a community credit perspective. And so I think this is where we were talking about, again, those facilities that have been, let's just use the zoning hearing board process, where there has not been maybe the documentation to ensure continued function, having an O&M manual, having things recorded on the parcel so that a subsequent owner is aware of these facilities and understands the obligations associated with these facilities. This was sort of the area where we're trying to capture some of that. So I agree with what you're saying, but some of those facilities that have been uncaptured and therefore unmodeled also are helpful in terms of reducing what our baseline is for purposes of meeting our reduction requirements. Yes.
Yeah, I just, there may be some hurdles to getting there.
Yeah, so we've ran into situations where it might not be the typical engineered plan set that we receive when evaluating these credits, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we aren't able to evaluate. It does potentially mean that we aren't able to give the maximum credit that the BMP may be worth, based on the fact of not being able to make the determination of that maximum versus minimum threshold.
Okay.
So I think to your point is there would be an evaluation process involved in this, right? And
Yeah,
there would
so
be some.
These would be reviewed, each structural BMP would be reviewed, an analysis would be done on the amount of impervious area that would be transitioning to that BMP, the value of that BMP as far as the reduction, the 5% for peak rate, maybe they get 2% there based on what plans they do have available, and then the volume 15% reduction. Those numbers are not the only option, right? We have from 0 to 5 or 0 to 15 for both of those.
So I guess in terms of the credit, I also want to make sure that this doesn't turn into, there's great that people would be doing this, businesses or homeowners, but if don't want to turn into a situation where we're spending more time and money reviewing credits than we are, so we just want to make sure that's covered too when we look at this.
Sure.
The partnership, that's kind of, those are unique situations, I think, with depending. Public participation, I agree with. That one not only gets people involved, but it also helps as part of our MS4 permits. For everyone watching, we have to do this.
Right.
So, and document it. So if people are going to participate in that and help the township, then we might as well give them credit for it, right? So I agree with that one personally. Rain barrel rebate, the only thing I'll say about this is I've seen a lot of different types of rain barrels over the years. Something I've used myself. We probably have to come up with a minimum size or type just to make sure it's an actual rain barrel and not something that is just connected to a downspout.
Sure,
So
yeah.
whatever we need to do there. I know Supervisor Blundy's a big proponent of rain barrels. Big
I
user.
mean, I've got 5. I'm only going to get $100 one time, and now you want to make sure people's rain barrels are big enough? That might go into your category of trying to figure out what's the right balance
Yeah.
of.
I'm saying this isn't a rain barrel.
Agreed.
That's all I'm saying.
Agreed, but if we want to
It's
make sure
large,
that there's
definitely
not
large.
like a lot of administrative costs, I think a rain barrel's going to be a rain barrel. It's $100 once.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I just want to make sure that you look at it, okay, it's a rain barrel.
We can set a minimum gallon requirement, and have a guidance on how to install to make sure that they're properly installed as
I
well.
think that's worthwhile. Education, I think, is probably a no-brainer. Our school department will appreciate that. Can encourage them to put stormwater in their curriculum. Downspouts obvious, I think. And then I already asked about the tree and shrub thing, so I think all of these are pretty good. From an implementation perspective, we don't have to do we have, I'll ask a question, is that telling you what I think? Do we have to vote on a credit implementation along with a fee this evening, or could we catch up with a credit system a little later?
Yeah, I think from an implementation standpoint, and as the ordinance references, it talks about, it ultimately implies that action would be taken subsequent to the action of the imposition. So, again, our goal would be to try to the extent that a fee is imposed, our goal would try to be in a position to adopt that credit policy prior to sort of the initial billing. But in terms of review of credits, depending on volume of credits, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about, sort of the concept of retroactivity in the event that things are not, so maybe just talk.
Yeah, so we have discussed this with staff, that the probably best course of action is to make all credits received within the first year retroactive to the initial billing date. That gives, everybody ample time to get, whatever paperwork they may need in place, get that submitted, also waiving application fees for that initial year. And, all credit and appeal applications then would be reviewed and applied retroactively as long as they would be received by, 12/31/26.
Sure. And in terms of credits, I'm looking at the tree one. If I've already planted 50 native trees and shrubs or something at my house, but I did it 5 years ago, I'm not getting credit for that, right?
Not currently. This would be new plantings, but that is something that we could discuss existing plantings.
Okay. And there's other things that I would look at, but that was the one that was on my screen, so, or in yours too. So just that approach to
Did you just
credits.
do a whole bunch of planting like me?
I did a while ago, yeah.
So as long as we're talking about trees, I feel like I may be misinterpreting something, but if we're going to use the term native tree, I would urge us again to look at how we define native trees, because trees that you can plant, trees that you can buy at Bowman are not native under our ordinance. Trees that are native in Upper Makefield and Newtown are not native here in Lower Makefield. Trees that are native across the river in New Jersey are not native here under the way we define them. So if we could just look to make sure that's really the definition that we want, and I'm with you, Dan. Are we trying to tell people, cut down your trees and plant them tomorrow, and then you'll get a credit? That can't be the look.
No, no. So we can look at maybe initially start with what we have here and then go back and look at other retroactive stuff for things that people have done to make sure it's considered. In my opinion, I'm only one of five. Okay. So with this is really just a review of the policy for credits. It's not the overall program. It's not it's an update and direction. It's not a vote of any kind, right?
Yeah, I think to the extent that there's an aversion to any of the credits, obviously we want to sort of understand
The direction.
that issue. I think sort of the other thing that we talked about at a prior meeting that I don't know that we've gotten absolute clear direction on is sort of the process associated with approval of credits. So are there certain credits that you would want? Now, for example, the stormwater partnership credit, likely would be a credit that would involve a larger project that would engage the Board of Supervisors as part of that approval process. Are there credits that you, as a body, would be interested in sort of being involved in the approval process as opposed to sort of administratively delegating those to your internal staff?
Yeah. I mean, to your point, stormwater partnership, I think, is an obvious one.
Yeah.
Those are always unique and creative. I think most of these are technical in nature, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, initial thought, maybe the sort of the public event participation stuff. I mean, again, it may be just even creating an awareness in the community that there's an event going on. There might be value in having that, even though it may be, perfunctory to a certain extent, but it would at least create awareness as to the event. The same thing maybe with the education credit, again, to understand what the local school district is doing and how they're educating the student population. Again, there's probably general value and awareness, I guess, on some of those.
Yeah. And you beat me to the punch, actually, but those are the two that I think we don't necessarily have to have the board approve them, but make note of them. Public participation, one is when we approve events in the township, we tend to talk about them here. Some of them are MS4 related, that would check this box. So I think we could, and the Park and Rec Board also talks about, is one group that also pushes these a lot through Park and Rec, and probably the EAC as well, obviously, but I think if the board pushes that during either our public announcements like we did at the beginning of the meeting, the community announcements, or if it happens to be an agenda item, we can do that too.
Okay.
One option, I know we have an annual MS4 presentation, which is scintillating, if you haven't heard it. And that could give people credit if they were to appear at a township meeting to listen to the MS4 presentation. That could be a way for us to build community engagement.
Yeah, you could.
As well. It could be a twofer. It also put the pressure on you guys to develop a really compelling MS4 presentation. Not that there's any pressure.
There's only so much you can do to make it interesting.
The other element to think about here is in terms of credit process. For things like the rain barrel, which I'm now interested in, could I go on and use our existing tools with OpenGov, where I could go in and potentially apply for, using the tool that we use, apply for the credit and possibly provide validation through that process, right?
Yeah, I think from a process standpoint, that's what we were thinking, is
Yeah.
to utilize that. As you said, it would be both an ease of process, but also sort of provide verification opportunity as well, and then just documentation in general, right? So from an implementation standpoint, to the extent that there was a levy and there were credit options, that's our thinking, is that we would utilize OpenGov as the mechanism to do that.
One of the things we could do, like just to think through that whole process, if we can make it easier for people to do that, which is, okay, here are the list of approved rain barrels, right? And when you submit, you have to submit a picture of your existing downspout. And then, you can purchase the rain barrow at 6 of these places, and this is the specs, are ones that we will pre-approve without personal inspection. And then you come back, send us a picture of it installed, and somebody will be able to look at the picture and make sure we installed it correctly. I'll have somebody professionally do it, because I'll probably botch it. But then in that way, you can track all that, and it reduces sort of the cost to serve in terms of administering the credit and potentially the hassle of, getting that credit installed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that would be beneficial for, tracking for the billing side of things as well, and, having that kind of database for reasons for adjustments.
Yeah, and just looking at the credits, I could see your typical homeowner doing a couple of these things and getting to a 20% credit pretty quickly and pretty easily without a whole lot of effort other than having to sit through something like this and planting a few trees. You could get to 20% pretty easily, and if you had a rain barrel in there, it's $100. That's pretty much the whole year right there. The entire fee for a year.
Yeah.
So just these little things add up pretty quickly and have a big benefit both to our stormwater management systems and the individual homeowner if they're able to spend some time on these credits. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Any other board questions? Okay. I'll ask the public if you have questions on the credit policy. Feel free to come up to the podium. Just like other public comments, please state your name, whether or not you're resident, and keep your comments to 3 minutes. You'll also have an opportunity to have comment on the actual fee structure later on in the meeting when that is on the agenda.
Hi.
Hey.
My name is Sandra Hardy. I'm a resident, Gainesway Road. In the 80s, when we were flooding Yardley, I got very concerned. I first started with barrels. I went to ponds and then streams and underwater reservoirs. I also have planted trees. I have ground cover that stops it, and I have chippo on my pathways. So I've been doing this now for 35 years. I don't know how I'm going to get your credits, because in my opinion, any water that I was contributing, I had responsibility for. I didn't like the idea that I was flooding Yardley, but I don't see that I'm going to fit into that pattern necessarily of how to get a credit. So how do I do that?
Well, I can say, just looking at it, and we did talk, and we're still considering the policy, because we can update the policy based on how it's being implemented to work better too. I'll say that up front. But let's say, for example, sounds like you have a fairly large yard. I don't know if you do or not, but
I do. I have
Yeah.
one of the largest ones in the area because I'm on a floodplain. And so that was one of the reasons I was concerned. And so all of my water from my house goes into ponds and or streams, all of which filter down, all of which go into an area that's been planted. And again, I planted trees a long time ago. I planted 15 beech trees a couple of years ago. So it'd be very sad from my perspective that I'm paying you now, and I've been investing for 35 years, and I get no credit for that.
yeah, and I think that's the conversation I was having with him as well, is how to get credit for things that you've already done. Because
My trees are quite tall, but I pay Save a Tree to treat them every year. So, again, it's not something you do as a one-off. This is something that continues for a lifetime.
Yeah. Well, I can say that you could immediately, pretty quickly, I don't know if your parcel qualifies for a low-impact parcel or not, but that would be an easy 5% one if it did.
Question, how do I find that out as a resident?
Easily, you could look up, it's really simple math. You just have to know your impervious area and your total area of your parcel.
So if you've done that by AI, et cetera, is there a place I can go and say, I live here, this is my property, and you have it registered? Or is there something else I have to do?
Yeah, I think we need to talk a little bit internally in terms of how to make that information available, and whether we want to have sort of a self-serve component, or whether we want to just have you call in and we can provide that information to you. But yes, we can.
You want to be inundated that much, do you?
Yeah. So we do need to, I think a little bit through that in terms of how we would publish that information and make it available.
I mean, I'd be happy, if I would think each property's registered if you've done all of that with oversight from the air, et cetera.
Yeah, we have billing. We have that information in a billing data set at this point. Yes.
So I should be able to put in my address and come up with exactly what, and at Tier 1 and Tier 2, how do I find out whether I am 1 or 2?
Again, same sort of, I guess, dilemma, if you will, in terms of how we're going to make this available.
So I need to see where my property's registered.
Yeah, I'm on. I was going to say, the mapping software that we have, that'll export a KML file?
Probably. I'm not
So,
entirely sure if it will do
The reason why I
KML.
asked the question is we could easily put, we can take the data that we have that has impervious surface by parcel area, by address, and then overlay that onto a custom Google map, and then make that accessible from our webpage so somebody can type in, it would be a specific map that, I don't know if most people don't do this for fun, geeky-wise, but you can create your own custom Google Maps. And then if you've got all that stuff in a data structure, you can drop that on the map, and then people could access it from the website, type in their address, they could see that stuff.
Yeah.
We also have the Bucks County Planning Parcel Viewer thing, but it's not going to have the IA on it.
Right, yeah. So I believe when we were going through the Near Map subscription, there was some sort of public-facing sort of portal as well option. So we can explore that issue as well. In the interim, though, don't worry about inundating us. I would suggest that you just feel free to give me a call, and I'm happy to provide that information to you based on what I have.
Okay, great.
So-
So I was thinking of writing a letter to you and just putting down what I've done and asking then how I fit in with the credits. Does that make sense to you or not?
Sure. I guess my sort of question is, in those circumstances, could she potentially qualify for a stormwater partnership credit based on specific activities that are occurring on the parcel?
Yes, there is potential. I'm hesitant to say, one way or the other without.
No, but I mean, just as a potential mechanism to engage in a conversation relative to the investment that's been made on the parcel and perhaps the unique nature of the investments that have been made over time, right? That would be.
If it doesn't easily fit into any other category, I would say that's always an option. Yeah.
So that in part is the motivation behind that partnership credit, is that it would provide for an opportunity to engage in conversations and perhaps capture things that are not easily capturable through a credit policy.
Okay, so that's a bifurcation. So in one case, I just need to know the stats on the percentage of perking versus not, and then also credits, right? So that's like two things coming. So one, I could look up, like where my property is and what it is
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
the other things that which may or may not fit.
Correct. I was just thinking, I mean, you were asking the mechanism to have this conversation. I think that credit is the catch-all conversation sort of credit. Doesn't mean you're entitled to it, doesn't mean it, but we would at least be in a position to evaluate things that have been done to address,
Very educational.
yeah.
One thing I'm thinking about here is sort of like, could you document, because it seems like you've made a significant investment over a long period of time. Is there a way that you could say, hey, if I've made X dollars of investment over some period, that would help us inform the partnership credit? So in those special cases, I guess what I'm saying is you may be an outlier. People maybe haven't invested as much as you have, and we want to find a way to first document that because the DEP, MS4 stuff, they want us to do this. And then second, to see about a fair criteria for people like you to get credits.
So normally what they do, it's not really a cost, it's more about what we can do to evaluate
The effectiveness?
the effective, i.e., what have you done to control peak runoffs and rates and whatnot? And that's an engineering problem where we can look, and there are guidelines for different things that you've implemented that say, okay, we'll give you X percent for that.
I was listening very
X percent
closely
for
to
this.
that and wondering how I could calculate that for you, because I think that is an issue. I mean, I've done my planning, as a layperson, and I know that I watch the water and where it goes, so calculating that and putting it into a structure, I think is a challenge, but I would enjoy it, so I'll certainly look into that.
So it's something, this is slightly my day job too, so that's some interest in this. So if you were to document the size of your ponds, let's say, the volume of your ponds versus the size of your property and the impervious area,
Yep.
then you can use different methods to calculate runoff.
I had 7 ponds and 2 streams.
There you go.
Yeah, a lot.
That's a lot of flow right there. So there is analyses that you can do fairly easily to get the conversation started, to get an understanding, and then the engineers would review it for specific items, and then you can have that conversation in more detail.
Thanks for your interest, thanks for your patience.
Sure.
Thank you.
And for caring about the environment. I think it's about time. Sorry.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mark Sanford. I live on 879 Big Oak Road. I have a 2 1/3 fully wooded lot, but I have a long driveway going into my house. I probably have hundreds of trees on my lot. What kind of tax credit or what kind of credit am I going to get just leaving the property intact? I've directed all my rainwater off onto my yard. I'm capturing all of it within the woods that I'm in. Should I be cutting trees down to plant 15 more? You should have it set up that, I would get a credit. And I saw on your one slide that you had 5% for a fully wooded, and that's the maximum credit you could get. But if I planted 15 trees, I could get 10% credit. It just doesn't seem to work out, whereas I've been really a good steward. I've been here my whole life in this township, and I've been at that property since 1988. And, I minimized how many trees I cut down. I fit a house into it. What kind of credits are you looking to help me out with?
Yeah, well, for specific to the trees, the recommended credit here is a maximum of 10% for a fully wooded with native trees.
I thought I saw on the chart 5% on the first.
It's 5%, yeah, it's max credit is 10%.
But that's if I plant 15
Well,
trees.
in the conversation we had, because I'm in a
okay.
similar, I have a much smaller yard than you do, but I'm also someone who plants a lot of native trees. So my question was, I planted them, depending on which ones I planted, several years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think the young lady that was up here earlier did the same thing. So can we look at that and say, okay, you have all these native trees. Is there some way to get a credit for
They
that?
are
So you
native trees. I didn't plant them. They are very big trees.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So, but it's the lot, as much as I can, is unmodified, and, I channel water into the inner woods so that it stays on my property. So I've done as much as I can do to contain all my runoff and keep it here without going out into any storms. And I really don't have any storm drains out on the road, on Big Oak Road, where I'm using this.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like my impact is very, very minimal. My sister-in-law, who lives on Oxford Valley Road, she's got 10 acres in a similar situation, totally wooded. What kind of, are you going to automatically decide that, oh, this is a zero impact lot? Her son also is on a lot that's totally wooded, and they're actually on the bottom of a hill, so any water that's coming off of any roads is actually going onto their property. So it's kind of like they should get some sort of special compensation because they're not adding to the stormwater runoff. They're actually, taking stormwater runoff. In my case, I'm managing it within my lot. So is there some consideration that's going on? Do I need to take an action to make sure this happens?
I would, like we were saying before, I think if you can document what you've done or what you've been doing, and see if it could fit into any of these credits that we're looking at, then I would do that. I wouldn't just sit and wait for our engineer to look at it and say, oh yeah, he's doing this, that, and the other thing. I would actually send that information in as sort of, I'll call it an application for a credit, for lack of a better description, so you can have that conversation.
Then I would comment this. You're looking to impose a fee tonight. I'm sure you're going to go ahead and vote everybody yes, and yet you haven't done your due diligence to go through and vet all these circumstances and kind of look at what it is. I can't even right now, at this moment.
I mean, I would suggest that these circumstances are somewhat unique to
I
to
understand
your
that.
individual properties that you're outlining right now. They're not generally reflective of what's occurring on the 12,000 parcels that exist in this community.
Totally understand. But I'm saying that you're going to impose this, and yet you haven't even released the information for people to start. And this is going to start January 1st of 2026.
So we have released this information. I don't think we've been doing this for over 2 years now. Let me finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me finish, okay? One of the questions I was going to ask after you sat down was if you could, we have Tier 1 and Tier 2 up on the screen every now and again. We've covered that in previous meetings. I would guess that most people weren't watching those meetings, so they don't understand the difference between Tier 1 and Tier 2. The way we've looked at this up until today is trying to come up with the most equitable fee structure possible for the majority of our residents. So the Tier 1, correct me if I misspeak because I'm doing this from memory, please, but Tier 1 generally are smaller, but more of some very high percentage of the township residents fall under Tier 1. So they're at the lower rates. So that's $4,500 or $4,599?
Yeah, 49.99 is.
49, okay. So anything under 5,000 square feet of impervious is Tier 1. I don't know if you can picture what 5,000 square feet of impervious is, but that's a very large, rather large home footprint, plus a driveway, plus a patio, stuff like that. So that's the vast majority of our township. Anything over that 5,000 square feet of impervious is Tier 2. And that's a different monthly fee. But what's the percentage?
Yeah, do you have the percentages of?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I
I thought
can
it
get
was
it.
something like
if you'd
80%. Something like 80% of the 12,000 residences in the township. Don't quote me on that percentage exactly, Peg, but we had it on our last meeting. But we did that on purpose so that most people would be paying a lower rate, so that if they didn't have the ability to get these credits, it wouldn't affect them as much, right? So we would still have a negative, a positive impact on our stormwater and be able to raise the money, but we wouldn't be imposing the largest fee on your typical homeowner. So that's what the Tier 1 and Tier 2 mean. So I want to make sure everyone's aware of that.
But I was unable to get information, as you're saying it's not available yet, with what you guys have decided with what the impact is on each individual home. I can't see that yet you're going to impose a tax that's going to start January 1st.
No, it's a fee based on the impervious area
Okay.
of your home, okay? And I would say that it's very easy to look up your home, right, online. You know how large your parcel is, and then it's very easy to maybe not get it 100% accurate, but to get very close to estimating the amount of impervious area you have at your home, right? Your driveway, your patio, the footprint of your home, if you have a shed, something like that. That's the footprint of impervious, and then once you know that, you can tell whether you're Tier 1 or Tier 2, and then you know your monthly fee.
Okay, I understand that. Right now, I can't get your information that you're going to use to bill me for this fee. As of this moment, I can't get that. Is that true?
I'm happy to provide that to you if you call.
879 Big Oak Road, what do you need me to do?
Just provide your contact information. I'm happy to follow up with you.
Just send it through an email?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Give me
Yep,
that?
yep.
Give me access to a map that I can see and that I can also do for my sister-in-law and my nephew.
The Bucks County Parcel Viewer is a publicly available map.
I looked
where
at that.
And
I
that
did
tells
look
you
at-
how large
yeah,
your parcel
But I can't
is.
see the detail. It doesn't map out and say, you said you're using AI.
Yeah, if there's
generalize
specific,
and-
if there's specific addresses, I'm happy to provide that information to you based on
Okay,
the
I'll
information.
I'll
that we
get you
have. Yep.
those and
Sounds
we'll
good.
move forward from there.
68% of the total number of properties fall within Tier 1, so almost 70%. 3% in Tier 0, which there's no, so 71% of the properties are either in Tier 0 where there's no fee, or Tier 1 where there is.
And how soon could we start a conversation about what credits I'll get?
So that's an individual conversation for you.
I understand.
Okay, so that's not for tonight.
I'm
right?
not asking for it tonight. I said, how soon can I have a discussion with somebody about
So-
establishing those
Well,
credits
one-
before you issue your
excuse me.
first invoice?
So one, we haven't even voted on whether or not we're going to do a fee yet, right?
Okay.
It wouldn't be implemented at the earliest until the beginning of the year. After that is when we would then start to look at credits. So as soon as that happens, assuming it would happen, that's when those conversations on credits can occur. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you for your comments.
Yep.
Any other public comment on the credit program? Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Hans. I live on Yardley Road, Yardley Morrisville Road. The credits that you're proposing, are they one-time shots? You plant 15 trees, is that every year you get that 10% of that credit? And are there restrictions whether you can plant trees? My neighbor just had a tree taken down because Pico said it was in their power lines. Are they going to lose credits because of that? If you do retroactive for the trees that are already on your property, I had trees taken down because they were dying or partially dying, so I didn't want them knocking out power lines.
Sure.
And then the fee or tax, which is just another name, cute name for a fee, is starting at $850 for anything under 5,000 square feet. What's the projection on how quick that'll raise to $12 a month, $15 a month? And will these credits apply to those fees lifelong? If you put rain barrels in, do you get that credit every single year, every month?
So
The rain barrels
If you
are-
were watching the presentation, the rain barrel's a one-time $100 credit.
Credit, all right.
And depending, it's credit dependent, right? So some credits are annual, some credits are one-time,
All right.
and some credits are, there's a maximum credit, but it's on a tiered system. So you might, if the max is 20, you might get 5, 10, 15, depending on what you are able to do at the property.
All right. And then,
And then in terms of just the financial modeling, I think we tried to look out 5 years from date of imposition, so.
all right.
So the way these fees were established was based on, you heard earlier prior to this presentation about developing a long-term infrastructure plan, capital investment plan. So as part of that process, the township has looked at 5 years of stormwater-related projects that have been mandated by the state as part of the MS4 program. So these are things we have to do. And we've looked at, and this is kind of another agenda item topic, to be honest with you, but we've looked at what those projected projects have to be based on those permits and approvals that we have. And we've developed budgets for each of those, like Dave said, up to 5 years out. And so this fee that we're looking at, as well as the credits, is based on being in compliance with those permits. We're not trying to do anything over and above that. It's just we're using that as the basis for
It's
this.
my first meeting, so I wasn't at the previous one, so I didn't see any.
No, I understand, and that's why I've gone
Appreciate
back
it.
a few times to explain like what Tier 1 and Tier 2 is, some of the other stuff that we've talked about. So it's like, it's when it's real, that's when people say, okay, now I want to come see. I'm not going to.
I just saw the thing on Facebook the other day. It was the first
It's
time.
a dangerous.
So-
Facebook's a dangerous place. I get it.
All right.
But no, there will be credits that are a one-time deal for things that you buy one time. There will be credits that are ongoing as you, let's say, participate in annual educational outreach stuff, and that you can get 10, 20%. That's an easy one. I'll sit through that. Just stuff like that, so that you can continuously get credit for it, and it's not just a one-shot deal. Yep. Any other comment on the credit program?
Mike McFadden, live on River Road. Just, have we taken into consideration the amount of personnel that's going to be needed to add to deal with this? Engineers, I mean.
That's all been
I'm on the
considered.
zoning board, and it's one pool. Okay, Dan can handle it. This is, the first thing I'm going to want to do is put an infiltration ditch in to meet my credits. Who's going to look at that, read that, tell me if it's good, inspect it? Have we considered those types of added costs, considering that the township's number one cost is personnel?
Yes, short answer is yes, and that's built into the program.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Anyone online? All right. Then let's move on to item number 9, the consent agenda items.
Mr. Chair, just real quick, before we move on, I just have a recommendation based on some of the feedback that I'm hearing from the residents. Is there any opportunity for the township to maybe come up with what these calculations are going to be and maybe send letters out to homeowners ahead of time to basically say, hey, this is what you're looking at, this is why we're doing it, and this is how you get credits? here's what the tiered credit plans are going to be and that sort of thing, rather than, somebody just January 1st is now getting hit with this bill. Is there an opportunity for us to be able to like proactively communicate with the residents to say, this is what we're, kind of give them an explanation of what you've been going over the last couple meetings and say exactly to each individual homeowner? Because if not, I think that you're going to be inundated with a lot of emails and phone calls to say, where do I stand? How do I get credits? Where do I stand? How do I get credits? Is there a way that you guys can produce, 12,000 letters out and specifically give the data out? Because you're going to know what the billing's going to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, as far as, we could develop a mail merge that could do that. I don't know how you would want to handle that, the mailing itself.
I think we should, I think we should consider an online database so someone can just type in their address and get that information rather than spending thousands of dollars on hard copy mailings that people might just throw out.
Yeah.
So the gentleman that was asking, hey, how do I get access to that information? This is all database driven, so it's not, it's tied to GIS, which is a database software. So it's very easy to type in the attribute of your address. It'll give you your acreage or your parcel, and it'll give you what your AI and your approach is given for impervious area, and it'll spit that out right away. And then we can have, Dave, we're going to have a website on our township website that explains all the credits, explains the tiers that people can access. But at the same time, I think it would behoove us to, well before the billing even starts, assuming it does, to just allow people to type, even if it's just an online Excel spreadsheet that they can search. That's probably overly simplified, but
Yeah, that's all. Just to get the message out.
just get it out there.
Supervisor McCartney's suggestion there, which if we can get the mapping stuff, we could send an email to, and I think we're at 85% penetration now of households. We could send an email out to everybody that says, hey, click this link, check your property, find out how much. The same email can also say, here are the things that you could do for credits, starting now. And then, by the way, here's the link to OpenGov. So all that could be more seamless. Now, addition to that, we should definitely use the socials and other elements to get people, drive people, as much as we despise Facebook, evil, by the way, Mark Zuckerberg, evil. And it's not just teenage girls they're harming, it's chief marketing officers too, just 1 minute of that. But yeah, so all of that could be structured in a way to get people to understand exactly what the fee is, how much it will affect them personally, and then what they can do to mitigate that fee, and then explain some of the other stuff. And we'll certainly write it in non-DEP jargon for folks.
We'll keep it simple, and
Yeah.
honestly, keep it simple and using photos and clear examples of what you can do. And then, not for nothing, the EAC has been very good about having workshops on various items. So I could see the EAC not only doing workshops that get us credit for our MS4 like they like to do, so you could go to a workshop, sit there and get your 10%. It's a lot of fun, right? At the same time, you could go to a workshop that says, okay, this is how this program works in greater detail, and these are some of the actions you can take to get credit. We're all looking at credits because we want to save a buck, obviously. But in the end, getting those credits results in reduced stormwater impacts to your property, reduced flooding, cleaner environment, all the good stuff that these permits and requirements do. So it's a win-win for everybody, I think, if we're able to do that.
And just as a point of clarification, what's the target initiation date of this?
So right now, the ordinance, and Maureen, correct me if I'm wrong, contemplates an initial billing in April of 2026 if
Okay.
it was passed.
So it would be second quarter of 2026.
Second quarter for essentially service rendered in the first quarter of the year.
Okay.
And then if we do make the credits retroactive for a year, then you have a whole year to get the information out. People can, get in there and say, okay, I want to do these, I want to go after these types of credits, I want to do these different things, or I have these specific, hey, your AI is, that's actually a flower bed, that's not an extension of my patio, that shouldn't be impervious, so it brings me down. I'm at 5,001 square feet, I'm at tier 2 by 1 square foot, so if I take out this little square, then that brings me down to, tier 1, for example. So you can do that.
Cool. That was it. Thank you.
Sure. All right, so we have, getting back to the agenda, I believe we have a motion and a second. Did I hear that correctly on the consent agenda items? No? All right, let's try again then.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda items as listed.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Did you, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
So I think we're going to be, it's not, next year, we have a minor calendar issue for board meetings.
Yeah, so Supervisor Blundy had indicated that it was at April 1st is the start of Passover, and so she was suggesting modification of that. Again, we won't, we typically don't advertise the entire meeting or schedule right off the bat, so, but if there's a suggested date that you have at this point, we're happy to modify that. If not, we can have Katie reach out to you and suggest a date for that first April meeting.
I'm definitely open to moving. I don't know, what are other,
I think you have to go to the second. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but you can't go to March 30th, I think, or March 31st. So
Didn't
we
we?
just didn't want you to publish it until you had a chance to fix it.
Yeah.
it's not published, so we can do it up until what, Friday before?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah, she typically doesn't, she sort of incrementally publishes the meeting dates in the newspaper. So, we would not be, for example, advertising an April 1st meeting at this point. So we can circle back with you on that, but thank you for noting that, and we can circle back and talk about a date for your first April meeting at a later date if that works for you guys.
And no last minute taxes for us in April next year either, because our second meeting is April 15th.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so we can come back and find a better date later.
Yes, we can do that. Yep.
Thank you for
Aye.
pointing that out. Okay.
aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Appreciate that. Engineers report, we have it in our packet. If you have any questions, I know he's back. There he is. Our engineer's sitting in the audience. All right. Managers report. This first item is essentially our 2026 budget. Mr.
That is correct, Mr. Chair, members of the board, members of the public. As at your last meeting in November, you had authorized advertisement of a budget for the 2026 fiscal year. The item on the agenda is Resolution 2520, fixing tax rates, special levies and assessments, and adopting the 2026 budget. The budget has been made available for public inspection consistent with the statute. The township has not received any public comment on the budget, either via email at subsequent meetings of the Board of Supervisors or via any other method of communication. Just in terms of tax rates in general, there is the only suggested or incorporated modification to a millage rate is for the hydrant fund, increasing the rate from, I think it's 0.33 to 0.373 mils. But other than that, all the respective real estate tax rates are consistent with the rates in 2025.
So that, I think you mentioned last meeting that it was a $1.87 increase for the average homeowner.
It was $1.87 for the average homeowner, yes. Yep.
Thank you. And I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right. Any board comment or question? Any public comment or question on the budget? All right, with that, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. Mr. Manager, getting back to our stormwater discussion, the next item is the stormwater utility fee.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is to consider an ordinance establishing Chapter 165 stormwater utility fee in the Township Code of Ordinances, which levies, as you mentioned, a stormwater utility fee. The ordinance establishes a rate structure consistent with the discussion that we just had, which is a Tier 0 for properties that contain 0 to 299 square feet of impervious surface. There would be no fee assessed. For Tier 1, which is 300 square feet of impervious surface, to 4,999 square feet of impervious surface, a monthly utility fee of $8.50, and then Tier 2, which would be anything in excess of 5,000 square feet of impervious surface, would be billed at a rate of $2.90 per 1,000 square feet of impervious surface or portion thereof, rounded up to the next 1,000. Your solicitor has prepared the ordinance. The ordinance has been duly advertised. In addition to rate structure, it talks about uniform application of stormwater utility fee, billing and collection of the stormwater utility fee, which again contemplates that bills would be issued on a quarterly basis, January 1st, April 1st, July 1st, and then October 1st of each calendar year, with quarterly payments for services rendered in the immediately preceding quarter, due 30 days net. It also provides for a 3% discount for payment if a full year of quarterly charges is paid by April 30th of each year. So again, as currently contemplated, there would be a notice that would go out dated April the 1st with quarterly remittance coupons. And again, if somebody paid the entirety of that fee, they would be eligible for a 3% discount for that payment. There's provisions relative to late payment and penalty, and just other language, legal language that's in the ordinance. And then the ordinance does recognize that a credit system policy may be established to provide credit reductions to the stormwater utility fee established by the ordinance for properties improved with stormwater management BMPs. Again, that decision, based on the feedback that we had gotten tonight, hopefully will be made in January of 2026, and then we can start talking about sort of the mechanics associated with the credit stuff. So happy to answer any other questions. I don't know if Maureen, you have anything else beyond that at this point?
No, I think that summed it up. Just for sake of clarity, so it is enacted as of January 1st of 2026, with the first bill contemplated April 1st of 2026. In addition, there is a provision for an appeals process built into the ordinance as well.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I'm going to adopt the stormwater utility fee.
Second?
All right, thanks. So we have a motion and a second. So any initial board comment?
Just a question. What's the total anticipated income that you see from this?
$2.1 million is what the budget is built on.
Thanks.
One thing I'll point out on the stormwater utility fee is, unlike a tax levy where we would levy a tax to the general fund, so a millage increase, this goes directly to the stormwater utility fee, and it can only be used on stormwater-related projects. Anything, a millage, you cannot do a stormwater millage. If we did a millage increase, it would go to the general fund, and that can be used for anything. So a future board, if they wanted to, if there was a related tax to this, could use that on any project they wanted to. They could use it on salaries, they could use it on the township building, they could use it for any capital project they ever wanted to, and never do anything to stormwater infrastructure. That scares me to death. The reason being, I think there are a couple budgets in a row I voted against a few years back, and when I did that, I made a statement that came back to haunt me a little bit, in that I was voting against a budget because I thought it was too focused on some other projects that weren't as necessary for the township. And my comment was, I'm just concerned that we're not investing enough in infrastructure, and we're going to have things like bridges and culverts falling apart, right? that's my line of work, so that I'm in infrastructure, and that's what I study, and that's what I understand. Fast forward to July of 2023, was a terrible day in this township, in Upper Makefield Township, where we had some massive flooding, resulted in several deaths in Upper Makefield Township. And in the neighborhood adjacent to mine, we saw massive flooding where 2 homes were almost lost. We have residents here tonight. Those were their homes. Luckily, they were not home. Otherwise, they may not be sitting here tonight. I remember that evening very vividly, as I live across the street from there. I think I was probably the first township official on site in my hip waders, because I have those, banging on their doors in the middle of the night, making sure that nobody was home. Thankfully, they weren't, but it resulted in several months of hardship for people, where we implemented projects to rebuild the backyards and rebuild the infrastructure immediately right there in that neighborhood. And we've been working on a close to $1 million project just upstream from there in that watershed to try and further improve things there. That's one small part of our township that has these issues. We have a lot of those issues historically in Lower Makefield for a variety of reasons, whether it's people building homes and putting additions on where they put too much impervious, or we just have large developments that predated stormwater management rules that the state will not go back, and if it's a state highway, they won't go back and retroactively treat the stormwater management. So we have massive flooding in this town. Anyone who's lived here for any amount of time has seen it and experienced it. So this is, not only is this our attempt to address mandated stormwater requirements from the state to treat stormwater quality and quantity, just from typical runoff, it also will have a big help when it comes to floodplain management over the long term. So that's a big part of the reason why I'm voting in favor of this tonight. I'm glad that we have a credit program in place so that people who do the good work and are not just paying a bill, they're getting credit for doing something positive and for having a positive impact on our stormwater management and the rest of our community. That's my soapbox. Apologies. Any other board comment?
I will also be voting yes, but I do not like this. But one of my fellow supervisors pointed out to me a few weeks ago that we sit on the precipice of not having money for anything. There's a lot of stuff on Facebook right now. It kind of makes me laugh, because 9 years ago, I would have been one of those people on Facebook writing some of those things. There's only so much cutting, so much delayed maintenance, so much pushing down the road that any township can do. You've probably all seen in the papers what our neighboring municipalities are going through in terms of changes in their budgets. We're stuck in a weird position because we're a Class 2, which limits how much we can get. I know you don't like, one of our neighbors wrote to me and he said, you know, this isn't an HOA. You can't just raise fees whenever you want. We're going to hit them too. We're going to pay them like everyone else. But the town is getting older by the minute, and pipes are cracking, and bridges are getting weaker, and that's on us, all of us, to repair. If we don't start building that fund now, I don't know what's going to happen when those things happen. So I don't love the way it's structured. I hate the credit part. That doesn't make sense to me. I still don't know how much I'll pay, but I know we need to start raising revenue. So I will vote yes for this fee.
Appreciate your comments.
Sure. Yeah. July 15th was a very difficult day, and I remember I wasn't there immediately. It was I came the morning after, and folks were justifiably unhappy with us as their supervisors. And you know, when you suffer a traumatic event like that, part of your job is to listen, right? And part of your job is to take action. And I remember looking into a 15-foot sinkhole with child's toys and a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. You can't unsee that. I have the pictures here of that. And, you realize how important this stuff is, and you have to make sure that you protect the people. That's our number one job here. So no one likes to create new fees. It's not fun. But this is something we have to do to protect folks, because I don't want to be in someone's backyard again looking at their child's toys or their beautiful Harley-Davidson motorcycle, encased in mud. I don't want to walk through people's homes where I see flooding damage and mud and junk. I don't want to hear about parties where 9 cars are totaled, right, because of flooding. And we can talk through all of the issues that we as a municipality face. Yes, we can talk about Pennsylvania DEP requiring this in the state or what have you. We could say that, past supervisors made mistakes. That's not really fair either, because that was the science at the time, right? So things have changed in stormwater management. And second, regardless of what we call it, storm frequency and storm intensity is increasing. You don't get 5.3 inches of rain in 45 minutes normally. That is not a typical storm anywhere. So those are the things that motivate us to make sure that we're there to support the community, to make sure that we have the infrastructure to protect them. And that's why I'll be voting for it.
Appreciate that. Any other board comments before I open up the public comment? Okay. I'll open up the public comment before we have a vote. Again, please state your name and whether or not you're a resident. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes if you can.
Thank you, first of all, for your service. And for Supervisors Blundy and McCartney, thank you. I know it's a tough job. I'm on an HOA. I'm on the board of an HOA, which I love very much. My name's Cliff Davis. I live at 231 Zachary Way. I'm here representing myself as a homeowner, but also 377 residents. So let me just fill you in on a couple of things that won't take long at all. Based on our current estimates, the fee that would relate to each homeowner would be about $8.50 per month, $8.50 per home per month. Then there would be about $2,800 that would relate to common fees, the common areas in our community. That relates to another $7.50 roughly per person, per home. That's $16 a month. Our 2026 budget was finalized earlier than yours a few weeks ago. Didn't include anything like this, but it did include the money that we all pay for stormwater management in the maintenance of 16 rain gardens and 2 retention basins in our community. You could also make an argument that the homeowners in our community paid for that in the prices of their homes when they bought their homes. We're pretty sure Toll didn't pay out of the goodness of their heart. So somehow, we've paid for that too. So what would happen is it would almost amount to a triple hit for our homeowners. It would be once for the home, twice for the common area, and third for the rain gardens that we still have to maintain. So what we're looking for really is to consider that I have a relative that lives in Lower Makefield, doesn't live in a community like ours, but lives in Lower Makefield. She has streets in front of her house. She's not charged with those streets as impervious area, but we are because we're a private community. So our common area really includes the roads, the sidewalks, the streets, the roofs, all the things that are there. So what we're asking for is your consideration really for an exemption from this so that we don't keep paying more and more for what we're trying to do with keeping up on our stormwater management, which we're doing. I have to say that HRG has been very helpful to us. David has been very helpful. Jim Majewski has been very helpful. Everybody is really getting in line, trying to support us in getting this working. But there is a substantial fee associated with this, and we're paying for that. So what I'm asking for, obviously sounds like you're all going to approve this. I think this is somewhat unrelated to that. What we're talking about is an exemption for a homeowners association that has rain gardens and sufficient basins to the town codes that have been approved by the township engineers and the township in itself.
I'd ask you to please finish your comments as you've gone well over the 3.
Oh, I'm done.
Okay, thank you.
So, that's it.
Appreciate your comments.
No problem. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Hello. Hi. My name is April Bowies-Clower. I'm a resident of Lower Makefield Township in the Maple Vale neighborhood. Obviously, not to speak for everyone in our neighborhood, but very supportive of this ordinance and the fee, and we appreciate all the work you've done in the last 2 years since July 15th and since what happened at our homes. As a regular to the meetings, I appreciate the due diligence you've put into this, presenting to the public, sharing the information. I know not everybody's into it, it's not everybody's thing until it comes up at the end, but it is important to know that they've spent a lot of time on this, and there's been a lot of consideration to the number of families within Lower Makefield. I just wanted to say that thank you. Thank you for the work that's been done in Highland. Thank you to you that are departing us for all that you've done to support our neighborhood. And again, fully support this, and I thank you all for taking this so seriously and what happened to our families. Thank you.
Thank you, April.
Good evening. My name is Michael Noble. I live at 1671 Renaissance Boulevard, and like Cliff, live in the Hyatt Regency in the township. I am speaking because first of all, I agree with many of the points that Cliff has made. I personally support the effort of stormwater management. I think it's a very noble activity, endeavor. Important for our environment and for the safety and well-being of the community, of the people in our community. In our community at the HOA, our homeowners, 377 homeowners, have, as Cliff said, have already made a significant contribution to stormwater management. We've had in our community the stormwater management in place for over 12 years now. So I think our group of people have been doing a fair, good job making a contribution to the overall stormwater management effort, and that should be recognized. And I think taken into account in terms of the fee structure going forward for our residents. I agree with Cliff that our homeowners have already made an investment in the cost of the infrastructure that's gone in, and we have been working with our developer Toll to make sure that these stormwater systems are well managed and maintained going forward. And the township, as Cliff has indicated, has been doing a great job helping us induce Toll to actually bring the system up to par, exactly what we need for our standards. Anyway, appreciate you taking that point into account in your deliberations about the fee structure going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Any other public comment? Anyone online? Oh, come on up.
No one online.
Sure.
Larissa Luzecki, I'm a Lower Makefield resident. I, like April, I am fully supportive of the stormwater fee. That day was a terrible day for us because we were the family who were not home. I think this gives us the resources that we need, not just for our neighborhood, but for our whole community. Because as we all recall, it was not just our neighborhood that flooded, but Taylorsville flooded. And I'm sure every resident here has taken Taylorsville to 295. So this is how this flood and the intensity of these floods impact all of us. I don't think there's an alternative. We appreciate that you've sought out grants for us, which never really materialized. There's a little bit there, but not enough. I think this will give us that security and the resources that we need. because I think if you don't act on it now, it's irresponsible, and you're putting us in more danger, and that's why it's an important step for our community. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other public comment? With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed?
All right, motion carries 4-1. Moving on to agenda item 12 under police. This is to consider a proposal from Axon Enterprises for body-worn cameras, a 60-month contract for the amount of $159,749.79. Chief Kelly, how you doing?
Oh, okay.
The Lower Makefield Police Department has been utilizing body cameras since 2015. We currently utilize 32 Axon Body 2 and 10 Axon Body 3 cameras. The Axon Body 2 cameras date back to 2016. Several of these cameras are past their end of life with battery swelling, their mounts are failing, and there's no warranty or repair coverage available. This is creating operational risk for our police officers. Officers must recharge their cameras mid-shift, and this creates coverage gaps on the road, as well as a possible coverage gap if the camera is not recharged in time. The aging hardware threatens our evidence reliability, our officer safety, and our accountability to the public we serve. Continued reliance on this obsolete technology is increasing our risk of failure. We are also facing a storage constraint. We are currently approved for 8,600 gigabytes of storage with evidence.com, our main transmission software to the district attorney's office. We are 87% full on that software now, and we have to retain many of those videos for prosecution. Our annual cost currently, because we entered into a contract at the end of 2024 for software and licensing with Axon, is $20,250. That came out to a contract cost of $101,250, which we are currently under. The increase for the enter into this 5-year lease program would be $58,499.79. We looked at many options. We looked at bulk purchase from Axon, which would have been $43,000 with no replacement and no increase to our evidence.com storage. We looked at a competitor, LensLock, which was comparably expensive and would have migration costs. We looked at an in-house server solution through Motorola, which was also at a very high cost, and we do not know how long these server solutions will be available. What came down to our recommendation to continue with Axon is we are already under a contract for their software and for their licensing, so it made sense to continue with a lease program for the physical cameras themselves. If we enter into this agreement, we would be supplied with Axon 4 body cameras, their latest. We would be supplied with unlimited cloud storage. We would have automatic refresh on equipment as it comes out and becomes available. We would have full warranty available and predictable annual costs with maintenance of our equipment. And Axon is the most widely used by our surrounding agencies and is the easiest to support interagency compatibility and exchange of videos when needed when we're dealing with other departments. The financial impact for 2026 would be a credit of almost $5,000, $4,993, and then the annual cost going forward for the remainder of the contract would be an additional $21,175. The benefits would be ensuring our readiness and officer safety, increasing our transparency, accountability, and public trust, and relying on newer equipment that is so desperately needed. I respectfully request consideration of the board for this item.
So moved.
Second.
There we go. So we got a motion and a second. I'll open it up to board comment or question. Chief, I'll ask you a really dumb question, I'll be honest. So you mentioned cloud storage. A lot of us use cloud storage personally, and when it comes to police department cloud storage, you can't just go to like Microsoft OneDrive and get cloud storage through them or do anything like that, correct?
Correct. We
or
have
any
to
other
have
service
FRIA
that is-
compliant cloud storage for our different platforms.
And I'm assuming there are limited platforms that you could potentially use?
Correct,
Vendors
because they
there.
have to be flushed out by those authorities.
Right, and limited cameras that meet, camera providers that also meet those same requirements for evidence?
Correct. There's
Okay.
3 or 4 big market cameras that are covering almost the entire country for police agencies.
And it sounds like you vetted all of them to...
We've looked at every one, yes.
Okay. Just have to check the boxes for you. Obviously, body-worn cameras are great not only to protect the public, but to protect the police in terms of a lot of he said, she said type of stuff, and can go to the cameras to figure out what actually happened kind of thing. So I think body cameras are supported by just about everyone these days. Seems pretty straightforward. You did your homework, and that's what you came up with, right?
Yes, sir.
Dave, from a budget perspective,
Yeah, the proposed budget contemplated the potential of this, but again, as the chief had mentioned, as it relates to 2026, there will actually be a budgetary savings by virtue of the credit that's being offered by Axon.
I like savings. Okay. Any other board comment or question?
I-
All right, call the question. Oh, yep, go
One
for
quick
it.
one. I understand we were going to possibly get a DOJ grant for this, or is that?
Yes, sir. We've applied for I should have brought that up previously. We've applied for a DOJ grant. We have not heard back.
Okay.
If we receive that grant, we'll restructure the lease where we can take advantage of that grant.
Excellent. Yep.
So again, the chief had that conversation with the vendor and the potential of that, and they've indicated that they could restructure it, much like they're restructuring the current agreement with that we have with them.
Okay. So that's, any other board comment or questions? Public comment or questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thanks,
Thank you
Chief.
all.
Thanks.
Public Works, there's Derek. Public Works, we're going to get another stormwater project that is going on right now. Project update on the Highland Drive Drainage Improvements Project.
Good evening, Supervisors. Just some updates on Highland Drive. I don't know if anyone has been out there lately.
I
but
have.
The obviously we have one of 5. The contractor's making great progress since the last Supervisors meeting. The culvert is in place and set. It is backfilled. The retaining walls are probably about 60 to 70% complete. Curbing is done over the culvert. The next step that is scheduled for Monday is the base paving over the culvert to tie into the roadway that was previously base paved. They are shooting and anticipating to hopefully potentially have the road open on base pavement before the Christmas holiday, which is very in advance of the schedule of what originally was anticipated by them. So they're moving along. Things will be changing rapidly over the next few days if the road could potentially open before the holiday break. And they would have to return after Christmas and the New Year's, that first Monday, do some minor fence work, some restoration, and then the site would be on a winter shutdown until paving can take place in the spring. Be happy to answer any questions.
How did the snow affect them?
Just not much, actually. I mean, just they lost, they didn't really lose anything because it was a weekend snow. They went in on Monday, plowed it off, and kept working on the retaining wall. They made out pretty well.
I'm wondering for people that live on the other side of the road, if they like how that retaining wall is looking. I'll note the thumbs up that it looks good.
Drastically different, but it's a much-needed improvement for the area, for drainage.
I walk down and check it out every day, just for fun. No, I'm glad it's moving forward. I haven't talked to you in a few days. Trash is finally coming back to the neighborhood.
Good.
They weren't picking it up very often. It seems like we've worked out the issues with these pre-5 a.m. Equipment drop-offs, and the bus stop is now running smoothly.
Good.
So all
hear
positive
that.
things. So let's keep it up. Looking forward to it being open fairly
Yep.
soon. Anything else to look out for?
No, like I said, just the next few days will be critical. We'll see how they move along, and then like I said, fence work and finish up any retaining wall work right after the holiday.
And is for potential punch list items, well, one of my neighbors, I haven't looked at it yet, but he said there's been some cracking, some of the new curb that's been installed here and there.
Yeah, I'm sure we could. Yeah, I'm sure there's always concrete cracks. That's one thing that happens. But yeah, absolutely. HRG would probably do a punch list walk, most likely further down when final pavement's done.
Of course. Yeah, and final pavement, for those that aren't familiar, they had to cut the first, say, 5 feet of everyone's driveway.
Yeah.
And I will say that all but one home had a brand-new driveway in the last 2 years, so I've been getting lots of questions about that. So we'll just want to make sure that they restore it nicely. They're doing for what it is now. People
It's
are not
good. It's
complaining,
good for the
but-
winter. Yeah, a lot better than it
They are
was.
interested to see how it ends up. And they did a good job putting down the winter cover relative to they can't see it, so they have to put down straw and all that stuff. So anyway, thank you. Any more questions for our Public Works Director?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Solicitors report. Getting there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The minutes should reflect that the supervisors present this evening met in executive session immediately prior to this Board of Supervisors meeting to discuss matters concerning litigation, employment, and real estate. The item on the agenda this evening is for you to consider allowing or authorizing execution of an agreement of sale for the purchase of 13.53 acres within the township for open space preservation purposes.
All right.
So moved.
Second.
Now, all I will say on this is that this board and our township staff have been working really hard trying to identify open space acquisitions. We've talked to several landowners who have either possibly have listed their property, or even if it wasn't listed, we've been inquiring a lot. So if you or anyone you know, anyone watching at home, has a parcel that they might like to talk to the township about purchasing for open space, please reach out to our township manager. We will be happy to discuss with you.
Yes. And I believe we will know probably in January of 2026 whether or not this is successful.
Final deal.
And the only other thing I'd like to mention is that the supervisors have authorized us as solicitors to participate and/or oppose 2 items before your zoning hearing board on January 6th.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's separate from the motion that we were discussing, just so you're aware.
It is.
So we had a motion and a second. Any other board comment on this? That's all right. Any public comment on this? All right. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you.
Apologies. I was just anxious to move this
Hey,
along.
trying to get out of here fairly early, right? Supervisor reports. I have nothing to report. Supervisor Lewis.
Disability Advisory Committee and EAC have met in the last week and a half or so. In both meetings, I made mention of the upcoming planning exercise that we're going to be doing in the area around 332. What are we calling that area?
Yeah, I mean, 332 Township Line Road, or Stony Hill Road, yeah.
So just to keep
Corridor,
people up, there'll be a planning exercise next year to look at what that property is and what options are for development or redevelopment. It includes the historic district as well. So telling people that we're going to be talking about that next year.
Yeah. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Supervisor Ross?
No report.
All righty. Supervisor McCartney?
No report.
There you go. And Supervisor Blundy?
I just want to say thank you to my fellow board members and for the residents of Lower Makefield for the last 8 years. James told me there's no crying on the board, so.
Supervisor?
Oh.
So that's my report.
Thank you very much for that report. All right, item 16 is discussion items. We do not have any discussion items on the agenda this evening. Other business, item 17. Nothing on the agenda.
No, I also just want to say thank you to Suzanne and to the 3 of you guys and the 2, was it Fred before you? It was a pleasure serving on this board. I've learned a ton, I've grown a ton, and I'm going to miss it. So thank you to all of you, and Dave as well.
Thank you.
And Maureen, and Chief, and Tim, and Derek, and Monica. Everybody out there, thanks.
Yeah. Well,
Go Bills.
and I will say thank you to both of you for your time. You know, we gave you the nice plaques and all, but really, you remember us. But no, thank you both for your years of service, whether it's on the board or another committee, another service in the community itself. It doesn't stop at this dais, right? I know how much you and your families have deep roots in this community, so this isn't just a title for you guys. This is something you take to heart. It means a lot because this is where your families are. So, had a lot of great, passionate, lively discussions over the years with both of you. Lots of agreements, a few disagreements here and there, but I think we made it through. I'm very happy about, especially these last couple of years with this group has been really good. The board's we don't always agree on things, but I think our discussions make things better. So when we do have disagreements, they're well thought out, and that old iron sharpens iron thing or whatever. But I think we're better for it when we can discuss like that. But with that, we will definitely miss you both. Don't be strangers. There may be openings on a few boards. Wink, wink. But yeah, with that, I won't keep you too late. But again, thank you, and hopefully those go up on your wall somewhere. I don't think we have any appointments or reappointments tonight. Oh, that's right. Additional public comment on non-agenda items is if needed. So just like item 5, if you have a public comment on a non-agenda item that we haven't discussed tonight, that you didn't make during item number 5, please feel free to come up to the podium, state your name, whether or not you're a resident, and please keep it to 3 minutes. All right. Anyone online? No. All right. Thank you. And with that, item 20, before we do item 20, I'll just say have a great holiday season. Make sure you be safe, be warm, enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you in the new year. The meeting is adjourned. Good night.